Hello and welcome to the News at 7, where we get to the heart of the day's stories and communities across Scotland. Tonight, does Glasgow have enough capacity for asylum seekers and the homeless? The Council's convener for homelessness says it doesn't. He'll join us live. Also tonight, a private prison is the first to face prosecution over the death of an inmate 12 days after he contracted COVID. And should greyhound racing be banned? We hear from a trainer, a rescued dog and its owner. We'll also have all the sport with Paul. What have you got for us tonight?
It could be a busy summer at Ibrox as Rangers have just confirmed for the first time that they're in negotiations with new potential American owners.
And we'll speak to the Star Wars superfan in Fife, whose props feature in the brand new series. Hi, I'm Laura McKeever. Welcome to the News at 7. Glasgow City Council has a long tradition of accommodating people seeking asylum from some of the most perilous corners of the world. But has the city reached saturation point? The City Council believes it might have, and it's asked the UK government to temporarily stop sending asylum seekers under the UK-wide dispersal scheme. Well, Alan Casey is an SNP councillor who's the city's executive cabinet member for homelessness and is here with us now. Good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
So just tell us what the situation is right now, because Glasgow as a city takes more asylum seekers than other parts of Scotland, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've been a proud asylum dispersal city for a number of years, and as I say, we want to continue to do so. But right now, the decisions of the UK government in terms of fast-tracking asylum cases has put additional pressure onto the system in Glasgow, amongst other things that have been happening in the city. I suppose we're at a stage where we've been signalling our concerns for some time to the UK government. So I say this shouldn't come as a surprise to them in terms of our calls to temporarily suspend the dispersal process to allow us time to plan for the people and support the people who are in the city currently so that we can support them into more permanent accommodation.
And why is it an appealing place to come for people? Explain what it is about the emergency homelessness situation that makes it somewhere that people want to come.
Well, Glasgow has always been a welcoming city. We're really good at integration, and I think it's somewhere people like to come, and we provide really good support in the city for people who are seeking refuge here. And I think that's why, obviously, there is people who are coming to seek refuge in our city. But as I say, the issue is that the UK government have changed the process, and they're not backed it up with financial resources. In fact, they're not even sitting around the table speaking to us to try and work out a plan about how we get people and support people from the Home Office accommodation into more temporary, more permanent, suitable accommodation moving forward.
Now, they said that we are working right across the UK to give councils as much notice as possible of newly recognised refugees, have doubled the move-on period to 56 days and have mobilised liaison officers to support asylum seekers in the Glasgow City Council area. I mean, is that enough? What are you looking to hear?
Yeah. Well, what has also happened in that last year, though, is the number of people who the Home Office are accommodating in the city has doubled over the last year. And I suppose 42% of those open homelessness applications in the city are made up of people who have been granted leave to remain. So what we're asking for is, I say, that temporary pause for us to get round the table with the UK government and work on a plan to be able to support people as best as we possibly can. As I say, we've had a great track record of doing that in the past, and we want to still continue to do that as we move forward.
And of course, you have other homelessness applications within the city that you need to try to honour as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, we declared a housing emergency a couple of years ago, and we're working through our emergency action plan in terms of how we address that. We need to be building more houses. We need to be creating more opportunities in terms of lets with our registered social landlords. But as I say, this is compounding the issue. And as I say, the UK government really need to get round the table and have serious discussions with us about how we actually do this in a more managed way moving forward. OK.
Alan, many thanks for coming in tonight and joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, the company that runs Addywell Prison in West Lothian is to face criminal charges over the death of a prisoner who contracted COVID in 2021. Callum Ingalls was 34 when he caught the disease, and in 12 days his health deteriorated rapidly. According to his family, Callum began coughing up blood and repeatedly asked for help, but was not seen by a medical professional. He was found unresponsive in his cell just weeks before he was due to be released. His family have been campaigning on his behalf.
Because this kind of process is very stop-start. So you get through the first phase of grief, say, and then kind of things level out a little bit, and then there's an appearance at the UK inquiry, and it highlights again Callum's plight, and then you make a recovery from that. Then there's the Scottish COVID inquiry, and
been really
Callum's circumstances, and the way he died just comes to the fore again. So, yeah, it's a roller coaster ride of emotions.
Well, this is a landmark legal move, as our Home Affairs correspondent David Cowan explains.
Well, this is highly significant for two reasons. Scotland's prosecution service, the Crown Office, has been looking into around 4,400 deaths that took place here during the pandemic, 4,000 of them in care homes, about 370 in hospitals and 16 in custody. It's actually been the largest single investigation into deaths in Scottish history, and these charges against Sodexo and NHS Lothian are the first to come out of that process. The second reason it's significant is that the Scottish Prison Service, which runs almost all of the jails in Scotland, has Crown immunity. It can't be held criminally responsible for deaths in custody. But Addywell is a privately run jail run by Sodexo, a private company, so it doesn't have that legal protection. We don't yet know, of course, how Sodexo and NHS Lothian are going to respond to these charges. Callum Ingall's family are hoping the case could be brought to court in a matter of weeks rather than months. One last point, the Scottish Government wrote to the UK Government last month asking for Crown immunity for the prison service to be lifted over deaths in custody. Today, the Scottish Government said it hasn't yet received a response.
David Cowan there. Now, a judge has ruled Scottish schools will have to provide single-sex toilets for students after parents brought a case to court against Scottish Borders Council. The local authority had installed only gender-neutral toilets at the school, which opened recently. Our reporter Katrina Renton joins me now. Katrina, what's the background to this?
Well, as you said there, the council had installed only gender-neutral toilets at the new replacement Earlston Primary School in the Borders. Now, Sean Stratford and Lee Hurley's son went to the school. Lee still works there. Now, they complained about the policy to the council, but it was rejected. Now, as I understand it, these toilets are configured in this way. There's two kind of standalone rooms which have got a door on them, which have got a basin and a toilet in them. But there's also a bank of cubicles where the children, boys and girls, would use them, and they could share the hand washing facilities and things like that. They're in a communal area. So that's what the complaint was about. Now, they got permission to proceed to a judicial review, but prior to today's hearing, the council conceded that they did have a legal obligation to provide male and female separate facilities. They said they'd accepted and acknowledged the decision that was being sought was correct, and therefore they didn't seek to defend this in court. Now, the judge, Lady Ross Casey, is due to issue what's called a declarator, and that's making the legal obligations on Scottish state schools clear, and that will be issued in due course.
OK, so what's the reaction been?
Well, the couple's lawyer, Rosie Walker, was talking to me earlier, and she said that the case will have far-reaching implications. She said all schools in Scotland will now have to urgently review whether half of their toilets are for boys and half are for girls, as is required by the law. And of course, this case comes on top of that Supreme Court ruling last week. Now, it is not directly affected by that, but what she said is that on top of the Supreme Court decision, this gives focus to the importance of protecting sex-based rights in single-sex spaces. So we've also spoken to the Scottish Government. The BBC Scotland News understands that the Scottish Government has said that they are confident that the vast majority of schools in Scotland already offer single-sex lavatories, but they are going to, of course, look at the implications of today's ruling. And they say as well that they are still considering the implication, of course, of last week's Supreme Court judgment and whether any changes will have to be made to toilet provision.
Katrina, thank you so much for the update. Thank you. Now, it used to fill stadiums, but greyhound racing is now facing extinction in Scotland. The nation's last track shut its door indefinitely last month, and MSPs are now considering a bill that would ban it for good. Campaigners want Scotland to follow Wales in outlawing what they describe as animal cruelty. But some trainers and owners insist it's a misunderstood hobby that prioritises dog welfare. Kirsten Campbell has been to meet one.
We have 14 racing dogs just now. 2 of our dogs that I did purchase have now retired as well, and they still live at the Brian Fairbairn Kennels.
So what do you make of these plans to ban greyhound racing?
To be honest, I think people just don't really understand it, to be honest with you. As I said, today, you'll obviously seen around the kennels today, there's so much work goes into this that, you know, the dogs are so well treated. You know, as I said, sometimes a pet, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning, you go to work, you come home at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and the dog's been in all day. Whereas with greyhounds, they're looked after all day, every day. They're treated like absolute, not just pets or animals, but they're treated like proper athletes. And you know, they get massaged, they get well fed, they get well looked after, they get walked, they get to play, they get out with their toys, and they get to know each other as well. So personally, I just think people are not, they don't really know what goes on in the background. They just seem to think that a dog's running around a track, it gets injured and it has to be put down, and they think it's cruelty to animals.
But even, you know, figures from the Greyhound Board of Great Britain showed that, you know, there were more than 100 dogs that died trackside in 1 year. Can you see why people might think it's
Absolutely.
cruel?
Oh, I can absolutely see both sides of the story. I really do. But you look at any sport, you look at boxing, you look at MMA, you look at football, there's always going to be injuries, there's always going to be the likes of horse racing. You know, these things do happen, unfortunately. But what they don't tell you is how many dogs are actually running around tracks and maybe do get injured but get kept on and get looked after and then go on to their forever home. You know, it is one of the, you know, I do totally understand people's reasoning behind it, but I think if you look at both sides, I don't think we should be banning dog racing at all.
Well, many greyhounds who were trained for racing have been adopted by owners who recognise the challenges that they've faced in early life and have eased their journey to becoming domestic pets. Crafty and his owner Christopher came in to see us earlier.
We signed up with SGS, Scottish Greyhound Sanctuary. We were looking to adopt a dog, and I had had a little bit of experience with greyhounds in the past, and I knew they were really gentle and loving dogs and perfect for flat living, which is ideal for us. He was a little bit nervous, a bit reserved. He wouldn't play with toys, would sort of not really eat his food that much. It took him a while to settle down and get comfortable, really. Probably at least 3 to 6 months before he was happy in his space.
So what are your thoughts then on this idea of potentially banning greyhound racing?
I think it's a perfect idea, honestly. I think it's an outdated thing. What we're doing to these animals is not right. They don't deserve it. They deserve a better life where they can sleep for 20 hours a day, as greyhounds are prone to do, and not be used essentially for our entertainment.
And generally as a breed, you know, do you think that they are happier living within a family environment, you know, with humans and being loved, not being raised?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's really come out of his shell. He'll play. When he knows someone, he'll like jump up at them to say hello and bounce around in circles and everything like that. Like, he's really opened up, and I think they get that opportunity when they get to be with a family and in a loving home. Do
you come across other rescues?
So many, everywhere. I jokingly refer to it as a cult sometimes, because you sort of meet up with all the other greyhound owners at the park, and there's regularly scheduled greyhound walks that we go and meet up with everyone. So it's a really nice community, and everyone really cares about their animals, and almost everyone really doesn't like the racing side of it.
Now, we've reported a lot on the financial issues facing local authorities, and at the sharp end of discussions around budgets are services like swimming pools. Today, Scotland's most decorated Olympian, the swimmer Duncan Scott, told Parliament the closure of pools could lead to a generation of Scottish children who can't swim. He spoke during a Holyrood committee looking at funding for pools across Scotland.
I think that element of learning to swim and that life skill is of paramount importance. You know, and the Learn to Swim framework manages to put, I think it's 82,000 kids and adults throughout the week, and it's already seen over 100,000 go through the programme. But without pools throughout the UK, these figures aren't going to be possible.
Police are appealing for information after a convicted killer escaped from an open prison near Dundee. 59-year-old Raymond McCourt was reported missing from HMP Castle Huntly yesterday evening. He's described as 6 foot 2 inches tall, with a stocky build, grey hair and a beard. The public has been asked not to approach him. The First Minister says a gathering in Glasgow attended by political and civic leaders was the start of a process aimed at protecting democratic values in Scotland. John Swinney said discussions had taken place over the threat of disinformation and pressure from the far right. Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar, who attended the event, said the Scottish Government must take responsibility for failing to address the issues facing ordinary Scots. Scottish Conservative leader Russell Findlay, who declined his invitation, described it as a waste of taxpayers' money. Right, let's get a roundup now of the stories making the BBC News app in Scotland. The UK's competition watchdog will write to Scotland's professional clubs to remind them of their legal obligations when registering child footballers amid claims that young players are being exploited. Angus Council's ruling SNP administration has been toppled following a motion of no confidence at a special meeting yesterday. A new Conservative, Labour and Independent coalition will now take control. Police and RSPB Scotland are investigating the shooting of a bird of prey in the Highlands. The sparrowhawk was found dead near Inverness in March with a shotgun pellet in its chest. And for more information on all of these stories, you can scan the QR code. It's there for you on the screen now. It will take you to the BBC Scotland News app, where there is more there for you, including remains of an Iron Age chariot wheel discovered at the site of a new golf course in the Highlands. Now, the BBC understands a jet ski involved in a crash that killed a teenager in Shetland yesterday was only brought that morning. The 18-year-old died after crashing into a pier in Lerwick Harbour. A 17-year-old is being treated in hospital in Aberdeen. From Lerwick, Pip Murrison reports.
The accident happened here at Gremester on the outskirts of Lerwick yesterday afternoon at around 4 o'clock when a jet ski carrying 2 teenage boys crashed into the pier behind me. Emergency services were quick to respond, but an 18-year-old was later pronounced dead at the scene. A 17-year-old was flown to Aberdeen later for medical treatment.
The emergency services there attended and we supported where we could, and the investigations will now be ongoing with Police Scotland and Marine Coast Guard Agency, and of course here at the port we'll be assisting and supporting where we can with those, and but really at the moment all our thoughts are with everybody that's been involved in such a tragedy here in Lerwick.
The jet ski was later recovered from the water and towed ashore by the Lerwick lifeboat. It's understood that the jet ski had only been bought earlier that morning. The loss of such a young life has shocked the community in Shetland.
I think we have to understand that at the moment the focus needs to be on giving these families time to deal, which is something that's really tragic that's happened. I think we have to respect that, and we have to obviously make sure that we're there for the rest of the community.
Police inquiries into this accident are ongoing, and the Marine Accident Investigation Branch have been informed. The feeling tonight in Shetland is very much one of shock as the community mourns the loss of such a young life. Pip Murrison, reporting Scotland, Lerwick Harbour.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Still to come, we have Weather with Christopher, and we'll speak to the Star Wars superfan from Fife, whose props feature in the brand new series. First though, let's get the sport with Paul.
And news that will be of interest to Rangers supporters. Good evening. We begin with breaking news from Ibrox. Rangers say they are in productive conversations over a potential takeover. I'm joined by our sports news correspondent, Chris McLaughlin. Chris, this is the first time Rangers have spoken publicly about a story that we've been reporting on for a couple of months now.
Yeah, this is really significant, Paul. Breaking just in the last 10-15 minutes. Very short statement for Rangers. I think it's worth just giving you exactly what they say. It's a joint statement between Rangers and the consortium in question. It says Rangers and its existing controlling shareholders are in productive conversations with the 2 leading members of the consortium, Andrew Kavanagh and 49ers Enterprise Global Football Group, about the potential for the consortium to acquire control of the club and to inject additional capital. It finishes by saying these discussions reflect a shared recognition of the importance of Rangers FC's long-term direction, ambitions and management. So, a short statement, we can probably read quite a lot into that, confirming it's the 49ers and they want control.
Do you think the fact Rangers are now speaking publicly about this statement suggests that the takeover deal is imminent?
Yeah, look, I've reported on a number of football takeovers, and you don't usually get this kind of language unless things are very far down the line. There have been suggestions in recent weeks that we are just weeks away from this being concluded. This would certainly lend weight to that suggestion. I would expect we will see more over the next couple of weeks in terms of who, when, and just exactly what kind of controlling stake they will take. But this is very good news for Rangers fans who are looking for this takeover to happen.
Yes, it could be an interesting few months ahead at Ibrox Stadium. Chris McLaughlin, our sports news correspondent, thanks for joining us. Now, forget about the basement battle in the Premiership or the tension of nearest challengers Livingston cutting Falkirk's lead at the top of the Championship. Instead, it's best to just enjoy the moment. That's the message from Bairns midfielder Brad Spencer. He's in the running to be named PFA Scotland's Championship Player of the Year. And rather than fretting over blowing the chance of automatic promotion with a title win, Spencer has a refreshing take on dealing with the pressure.
I think you need to enjoy these last two games, and you can kind of wish it's away and wish it's done already, but you look back at last year and it's kind of gone in a flash, so you need to enjoy these moments while you're in them, and that's what we're doing as a squad. Looking forward to Friday and the following game after that.
Brad, when these Friday night games come, it's obviously a long part of the day to wait until the game comes round. How important is it that you do something just to chill and keep your mind off things rather than getting too anxious during the game?
No, I'm not really one that gets really nervous or anything like that. I'm the same whether we go play at Thistle or we play at Parkhead. I'm not really one that gets caught up in too many things. I'll still go about my same routine, a nap in the day and eat what I eat, and that'll be that.
How long's the nap?
Yeah, a wee hour and a half or something like that.
Make sure you set the alarm.
Yeah, definitely. I know.
Meanwhile, great scenes here. Look at that picture. Yeah, a great cause for celebration. And they are both midfielder and League One Player of the Season nominee. Scott Stewart has praised his side's winning mentality as they sealed the title recently with 3 games left to spare. An emphatic victory over Stenhousemuir earlier this month was enough for the Red Lichties to get over the line, meaning the Gayfield club bounced back up to the second tier at the first attempt.
Brilliant, to be fair. It was, I think the big thing obviously coming down for the Championship last season was to try and get promoted straight away, and you know it's no easy to do that, but it was brilliant for the club to be able to do that first time asking, and obviously been there for a few years. It was great. I might be mistaken, but are you a teacher when you're not? Yes. Yeah, what do you teach? A PE teacher. Okay, so I had to quick half day for this. Whereabouts? I'm at Trinity High School in Rutherglen. And how much do you share about your football travails with your pupils? Are you able to? Do they ask you a lot of questions about who you're playing next? And what's going on? They do, but I think the new S1s this year, the first question I asked is, you played against Messi. So I don't know how much they can realise where we're at.
That's just about it from me. There's plenty going on at the BBC Sports Scotland website, the latest football and rugby podcasts, and news of a good deal for St Mirren as they sell a striker. There you go, Laura.
All the breaking news and everything else tonight, Paul, thank you. Now, a Star Wars superfan from Fife has had his dreams come true after props from his business were used in Disney's latest version of the series Andor. The prequel to the film Rogue One follows thief-turned-rebel spy Cassian Andor, and the new season premiered today. Well, Carl Moreni-KJ, who runs Scaramanga Vintage Prop Company in Cooper, joins me now to tell us more. Good evening to you, Carl. How did the Force find you then? How did this come to you?
Well, it all came about when I had a phone call from one of our regular props buyers who I'd been working with for the last 10 years. She called me up and said that she was looking for a whole load of vintage props to use in the second series of a popular science fiction TV series, she told me. So I took the list, had a look through it, sent her across photos of what we had in stock, along with prices. And within a day or two, she had sent an order in to us. A month later, there was a second order, and then there was another order again, and then another order. And in the space of about 6 months, we'd had 7 orders from her.
Wow. So they liked your stuff.
Yes. They liked the fact that it was original, old, vintage and antique items.
And this is a passion for you, isn't it? What other movies and other shows have you provided props for? So
more recently, Snow White was just last month. And then we had Paddington in Peru. We had No Time to Die, the more recent James Bond series. And we've had Deadpool and Wolverine. So lots and lots and lots of films.
Is that fun for you then, as an enthusiast of these movies?
Yeah, yes, always. I'm an avid moviegoer, and the fact that props buyers are coming back to us, film after film, year after year, looking for original antique items, it just kind of keeps us going here at Scaramanga.
So is it just a constant searching process for you as well as you find new stuff?
Yes, yes, I'm always looking. We buy from as far afield as India, America. But we'll also trawl local auction houses. I'll buy online. People kind of come to us with unusual items. So yes, it's a constant challenge to find the next item that we think people are going to want.
Yeah, well listen, Carl, enjoy picking out your props when these things make it to the cinema. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight's News at 7. Good to see you. And you can also catch the musical in Stirling, Aberdeen, Inverness, Glasgow and Edinburgh. Right, let's get the weather now. Christopher is here with us to give us a taste of some of the Weather Watcher pictures from today. A beautiful cherry blossom behind you.
A cherry blossom
It's
picture.
so fabulous, even if it doesn't last long.
Let me show you some more as well, because yes, beautiful cherry blossom picture there from Clackmannanshire. PJ Poppins sending us that one. Beautiful blue sky down towards the Clyde there. Bit more of that on the way tomorrow, actually. And of course, a lovely beach picture from the Murray coast. And more sunshine to come. Let's take a look at what's happening, because we've got high pressure nearby, but actually it sort of gets squeezed out of the way for the weekend, with conditions turning a bit more unsettled. Next week, though, something to get our teeth into in terms of drier, brighter, warmer weather. Before we get there, let's take a look at tomorrow morning. This is the picture at 8 a.m. Some low cloud through the central lowlands towards the east coast, a bit like this morning. That should thin and break and burn off. Or one or two showers with the thickest cloud in the northeast, but for most it's a fine start to the day. And then actually that fine start sticks with us into the afternoon. Some sunshine for many parts, and in the west, 17, 18 degrees. In the east, with that breeze off the sea, it will be a cooler feel. This is Friday now. A weather front trying to move in off the Atlantic, but running up against that ridge of high pressure, so not making much eastward progress. It will mean cloudier skies in the west with some patchy rain through the day. Elsewhere, some clouds, some sunshine, temperatures again for many mid-teens, but you can see with that southeasterly breeze, Aberdeen just 10 degrees, that will feel quite cool, as it has done today. And then beyond that, the weekend, you can see we've got weather fronts moving west to east, so a little more unsettled, a little more cloud around, some showers, bit of sunshine. The winds, though, coming from the south, so not cold. These are the numbers by mid-afternoon, around about 13 to 15 Celsius. Some clouds, some showers, some brighter moments. Sunday is similar. Those showers perhaps even giving way to a longer spell of rain at times. So it's a mixed picture this weekend. Beyond that, next week, well, high pressure should be working its way in, and we've got that southerly or even southeasterly. So temperatures will begin to increase, and with that increasingly strong sunshine, that'll feel quite pleasant. So here's the weekend, a mixed picture. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, high teens, maybe 20 degrees, likely to last towards the end of the week too. That's the forecast.
I sense summer coming, Chris.
Well,
it's round the corner.
It is round the corner, but let's not count our chickens just yet.
Thank you. And thank you for being with us tonight. Graham Stewart will be here tomorrow. A very good night from all of us. Bye-bye.